You must be Michael.
Jesse, actually.
Good enough! If you'll follow me, I'll show you around for your very first day. These are our patent-pending animatronics. If you touch them, we'll deduct your pay and most likely fire you. Now, if you'll follow me, I'll show you around for the rest of your doing things. Now, right here is your cameras where you'll be watching after my little murder robots. Do be careful.
What?
Nothing. Is that all?
I don't get to, like, do anything with the robots? I just sit here for 6 hours and do nothing?
You get paid to do nothing. Sounds like a miracle to me, you lazy piece of shit.
Well, since I'm probably going to be here for a while, why don't I rant about something? But what to rant about? I got it.
So, you think you know all about FNAF 4. Well, you're wrong! In my opinion. Hello! Welcome to another video. This is my little setup. I actually got a tripod now, so I don't have to hang my camera up on my shelf like usual. But welcome. Come in, sit. Today I wanted to talk about FNAF 4, because I think everyone's wrong. I think everyone is wrong about FNAF 4. FNAF 4 is by far my favorite of the first few FNAF games. I think it tells a perfect story. I think all the first 4 FNAF games tell a very cohesive story. I think FNAF 1 through 4 are a perfect story. Because FNAF 4 was supposed to be the last game. Originally, FNAF was planned out through 1 through 4. So Scott came out with FNAF 1, then he made FNAF 2, and made FNAF 3, meant to kind of end the series. And then he made FNAF 4. And FNAF 4 was supposed to be the end. And after all of the people had theorized and, worked hard to uncover the lore, after they figured it all out, he would unlock the box, show us what's inside, and that was it. That was the end of Five Nights at Freddy's. But we actually never figured out what any of that meant. We never figured out what Scott wanted us to figure out, and so he made FNAF World, and then he made Sister Location, and then he made a bunch of other games because we were too stupid to figure out the lore. Either we were too stupid, or Scott doesn't really know how to make lore, how to write stuff. But that's not possible. Scott's a great writer, right? Right? I would like to describe my personal interpretation of what I believe FNAF 4 was trying to tell us all along.
Did one of them just move?
Well, shit. Seems like I'm living out FNAF in real life. Don't worry. I've been through this countless times before. I got this. No! I personally believe that in FNAF 4, we play as the crying child. Now, a lot of people like to believe that we actually play as Michael Afton, who is kind of living through the trauma of him, killing his brother. I don't think that's true. A lot of people like to point to the fact that we hear the FNAF 1 phone call, reversed in one of the nights, and that is how we know we're Michael Afton, because Michael Afton is who we play as in FNAF 1, so it has to be Michael Afton. I don't think that's true. Allow me to explain. So first off, throughout the game, we see a bunch of mini-games and things like that, that all kind of tell us the story of the crying child. It tells us that the crying child was this little boy who was bullied by a bunch of people and who was incredibly afraid of animatronics, and specifically Fredbear's Family Diner. He was trying to kind of cope, and because of that, he, maybe made an imaginary friend, or made friends with a Fredbear plush. We don't really know what the Fredbear plush is, and quite frankly, I'm only going to touch on that a little bit in this video. But yeah, he finds ways to cope, and we watch as We watch the days leading up to a big birthday party, and once that birthday party finally comes, we see that he is even more bullied. He's picked up by his brother and his friends, shoved into the mouth of Fredbear, and killed. After he's killed, we see this strange cutscene where he's sort of talking to a psychic friend Fredbear, or the Fredbear plush, while the other plushies that he has is in the background, and they disappear one by one, and the Fredbear plush, or someone, says, "We're still your friends, and I will put you back together." The famous line, "I will put you back together." Come on.
Hello. Hi, man. How's it going?
Look, man, I don't know what kind of sick game you're playing here.
Oh, it's Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay, I don't know what kind of sick game you're playing here, but I'm done, okay? These things are trying to kill me. They're not right. There's something wrong with them. I think they're like haunted or something.
Sounds like you're having a great time. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, if you do touch any of the animatronics, we will dock your pay and kill you. And also probably fire you.
The actual gameplay, I think, is very easy to explain. I believe that we are going through kind of a loop. We are experiencing the bite victims like nightmares, and seeing the days leading up to his death play out, and he's kind of experiencing that. Probably because when he died, his skull was crushed. His brain, his frontal lobe was crushed in Fredbear. And so when he's eventually becomes, a spirit, his memories are fractured. He's lost. He's broken. And he needs to be put back together. And so he's trapped in this loop, this purgatory, where he's living out the days before he died. And so I believe what happened is that when the crying child, or Cece, dies, when he gets chomped in Fredbear, his spirit goes into that Fredbear animatronic. I then believe that later on, Michael, or William Afton, does all the murders, does the missing children's incident. He kills 5 kids, stuffs them into suits. He stuffs one of those children, who we now know as Cassidy, into the Fredbear suit. He doesn't know that his son is in that suit, the spirit of his son. So he stuffs him in there. So now Golden Freddy is possessed by 2 spirits, the crying child and Cassidy. Now, there's a lot of theories that Golden Freddy is possessed by 2 spirits. It's kind of like common knowledge now, right? That Golden Freddy is possessed by 2 different spirits. And I think that's 100% true, and I think those spirits are the crying child and Cassidy. Now, here's where it gets a little crazy. I believe that psychic friend Fredbear, who we see throughout the entirety of, the mini games and things like that, I believe that psychic friend Fredbear is Cassidy. I believe that psychic friend Fredbear is the voice of Cassidy, who's able to see this purgatory, this loop. He sees the memories of the crying child as he's experiencing it, because they're in the same suit. They're sort of connected to each other. And so the spirit of Cassidy is able to guide the crying child throughout all of these memories, and helps him to, break out of it, to remember who he is, and to try and escape this purgatory, to try and fix him, to try and put him back together again. That is what that means.
Please, we just want to give you a really big hug.
Please, I'm too young to die.
Please, we brought Taco Bell.
No, I don't care what you say. Wait, Taco Bell?
Nah, I'm just playing. We're gonna kill you.
Throughout FNAF 4, we play as the crying child, who has to navigate his room and try to defend it from the nightmarish versions of animatronics. A lot of people like to, explain the weirdness of the FNAF 4 animatronics being like nightmarish monster versions of the animatronics. They like to explain those as being the result of illusion discs or nightmare gas. The illusion discs come from the Silver Eyes trilogy, where in the Silver Eyes trilogy, the animatronics have these illusion discs, which make them look different, and this is why the twisted ones look so weird and creepy and like deformed, because they are that's the result of an illusion disc. And so when people read the Silver Eyes trilogy, they assumed the FNAF 4 animatronics are also the result of illusion discs. I don't think this is true. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and at this point in time, we didn't know what illusion discs were. There was nothing pointing to that, so I don't think that's why they look that way. I think they're just nightmares. They're literally nightmare animatronics. They're just nightmares. I think that's all they are. But yeah. Also, throughout the FNAF 4 gameplay, we can see flowers and like an IV bag, hinting to the idea that the crying child is either in the hospital or was in the hospital and is now dead. And I think that more points to the idea that crying child is dead, and we play as the crying child. If we play as Michael, it wouldn't really make sense. Like, why is there an IV bag? Michael isn't dead. That's very weird. It's very odd. I don't know why. If we played as Michael, there would be an IV bag or flowers or things like that. It just doesn't make sense. So I don't think we play as Michael. The reversed FNAF 1 phone call. I believe the reason why we hear that is because Golden Freddy is in the FNAF 1 office. What do I mean by that? Well, if the crying child truly does possess Golden Freddy, then it would make sense that his spirit can kind of hear things from the outside. And so, when he hears that reversed FNAF 1 phone call, it's because Golden Freddy appears in your office in FNAF 1. The office where that phone call would have been playing from. Which is why I believe that's why we hear the FNAF 1 phone call. Because we're hearing what Golden Freddy would be hearing from the outside world. That is sort of seeping in to the FNAF 4 like dream, purgatory, nightmare realm. And that brings us to our next point. I believe that this is happening not just with the FNAF 1 phone call, but with everything in both FNAF 2 and FNAF 1. I personally believe that FNAF 4 doesn't just take place over the course of maybe a couple days, or who knows how long. I think it takes place over the course of all 3 FNAF games. In FNAF 4, in the minigames, we see a bunch of like sort of references to other FNAF games. There's a kid who looks strikingly similar to Balloon Boy. There's Chica, a toy Chica without her beak. The list goes on. There's all these different references to other FNAF games. There's even like a kid who has like a Springtrap plush. It's like a Spring Bonnie plush, but it's the color of Springtrap, which wouldn't make any sense, right? Unless the things from the real world are seeping into the dream world. And so the crying child inside Golden Freddy is able to kind of perceive these distorted versions of things from the outside world as they kind of manifest in his dream loop world. That would make a lot of sense. One like random quote from a game theory live stream that Scott Cawthon kind of dropped into, he said, "Why is Toy Chica missing her beak?" I think that's why. I think the reason Toy Chica's losing her beak is because Toy Chica is missing her beak in FNAF 2, and so that version of Toy Chica kind of manifests itself into the dream world. I think that makes a ton of sense. Makes sense why like Plush Trap exists. It makes sense as to why there's a kid who looks like Balloon Boy. It all makes sense. And that is my interpretation of FNAF 4. Okay, let's talk about FNAF World. I think FNAF World is canon. I think a lot of people have kind of uncovered that this game is a lot more canon than people would like to believe. I personally love FNAF World. I think FNAF World is a great game. I think it is kind of Scott's like little passion project. It's super reminiscent of his old games, has a ton of references to his old games, and I think it's incredibly underrated. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. FNAF World, I think, connects to FNAF 4. Hear me out. So we already know that the FNAF World map kind of looks like a brain. This is sort of a stretch, but it does look eerily similar to a brain. And like there's a white zone, kind of a dead zone, where the frontal lobe would be, which is very interesting. I think after FNAF 4, the crying child is actually brought out of this nightmare loop and is sort of pulled into FNAF 4. You could say that maybe this takes place in FNAF 3, maybe his like spirit or consciousness has sort of uploaded itself into one of the arcade machines or something, or maybe this is just how the crying child perceives this next level of his purgatory. I believe that as we are in FNAF World, we are playing as the crying child, trying to go and uncover these mysteries, trying to find his memories and put himself back together. I think what even points to us kind of playing as the crying child is when you play as Fredbear and talk to Fredbear, it does this weird thing where it's like 2 instances of Fredbear cannot exist at one time. I think that's trying to tell us something. It's trying to tell us that the crying child is sort of manifesting himself as, you know, Freddy and stuff. But when he manifests as Fredbear, that Fredbear is Cassidy. The person talking to us as Fredbear is Cassidy. Cassidy is Fredbear. Fredbear is the Fredbear plush. I believe that Fredbear from FNAF World, who takes us through the tutorials and explains the whole game to us, is the same Fredbear as the Fredbear plush. And I believe that the Fredbear plush is Cassidy. Cassidy is Fredbear from FNAF World, guiding us through this purgatory, trying to help us out, trying to get us through it, and trying to put us back together. That is FNAF World. A couple more things that point to this is not only that all of the like little treasure chests you can find are the box from FNAF 4, but also there's a sprite of the opened box in FNAF World. Why would that be the case if FNAF 4 wasn't directly connected to FNAF World? It makes total sense.
I've come to check up on you. Jesus Christ! What the hell did you do to my babies? They tried to kill me. I don't care if they were trying to murder you. I, William Afton, would never do murder. Look at you. Of course they'd kill you. You look so fireable. You're fired. You're fired.
Well, that's kind of all I have for today. That's my interpretation of FNAF 4. This is more like a very ranty video. This is not scripted at all, but I really felt the need to get this out because I really feel very passionate about FNAF 4. I think it has such a tragic and great story that tells a tale of a bullied kid who just wanted to have fun and have friends, who was thrown into this purgatory, trying to just move on as any spirit would. I think it's such a tragic and terrible story, but such a great and melancholy end to the FNAF saga, and I think it would have been fine if we ended FNAF at FNAF 4. I'll obviously happily accept more FNAF games, but I think if it ended at FNAF 4, I don't think anyone would really care. It seems like a natural end, and I think it was a very good ending. But that's all I've got. If you guys like these more unscripted rant videos, leave a like, tell me in the comments below. If not, I will go back to my typical scripted content. But yeah, that's all for today. Bye-bye.